Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Up for Debate, the debate podcast where the two hosts agree on everything. I'm Sean Jennings, joined as always by the original Mr. Nobody. It's Matt Mariani. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Sean. How are we doing today?
Matt, I am fired up and ready to drive irresponsibly. How about you?
Can you believe we've done 7 of these already?
Matt,
this is going to be number 7.
Can you believe there's 3 more?
No, I cannot.
You're like, what do they have left to prove? We're gonna find out.
What are they gonna think of next? These guys. What is gonna be the next adventure? Who knows? We'll find out next week. But this week, we're talking about Furious 7.
Furious 7.
Furious 7. Now, the titles of these movies are famously very confusing.
Yes.
Why do you think Furious 7? Why not Fast 7? Why not Fast and Furious 7? Why Furious 7?
You know,
I have a theory about this.
Oh, okay. I mean, to me, it's like Fast 5, and it should have been Furious 6. Like, that would have made more sense to do them back-to-back like that. And then it went with Fast and Furious 6, and then they're like, shoot, we should have used that Furious thing, and then they went with Furious 7. But what's your theory?
So my theory, and this is probably very untrue and unfounded, but I'm going to say it anyway. There is a movie, a very famous movie called The Magnificent Seven.
Yep.
Maybe you've heard of it. It's a kind of a remake of an original Kurosawa film, the Seven Samurai, but it's a Western. And I think that maybe someone on the production team saw that. And we're like, okay, we're gonna pretend not pretend, but we're gonna name it Furious 7 because it's like Magnificent 7, Furious 7. I don't know. Probably completely untrue. I'm sure there were marketing reasons around it. They probably did lots of tests, and this is the title that worked best with audiences.
Honestly,
they didn't really care, and they just slammed a name on it. How does anything get named? Do you know?
Focus groups, marketing focus groups. No, Matt,
That's
you know
right.
The thing that threw me for the most loop was when in the movie, in the sort of opening credits, they reveal the title, and it's Furious S-E-V-E-N. That blew my mind more than anything else. I'm like, they spelled out 7?
But it's not spelled that way in like any of the
nothing else.
Really,
nowhere else does
promotional
it say that.
Things. Not on not on the posters, not in the trailer.
But that's what's interesting is
it's just in the title card.
Is in Fast 5, everywhere they spell it out F-I-V-E, and everywhere it's F-I-V-E. But it's Furious numeral 7, except in the film itself, where it's Furious S-E-V-E-N.
Maybe that's where I thought of the Magnificent 7 theory, because that's spelled out, the word 7, but.
Very strange.
But yeah, I just thought that was just an interesting thing to talk about. This was released on April 1st, 2015.
What a joke.
In China. And then April 3rd, the US release date of 2015. We'll get it out there, I guess, right there in the open. This is the final Furious for Paul Walker, who passed away before the film was able to complete production. It was like the tail end of production, kind of.
It was in the middle of production.
Actually, not really.
No,
yeah.
It was. There are notes on here where they ended up using 350 visual effects shots to replace him, using his brothers as stand-ins and CGI to reconstruct his face, which I think worked well throughout the movie. I found it hard to tell, except in that weird final thing with Vin, where they're driving, and he looks super creepy and fake.
Yeah, I got vibes of the famous references like Princess Leia in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
Yes.
Yeah, so that like that.
All the de-aging stuff is kind of wacky. I mean, he just looks
also
like
Star Wars.
He just has a weird smile on his face. He looks like like you put a cardboard cutout in the driver's seat, where it's just sort of like.
Yes, that was it was a little unsettling there, but I thought it was interesting the way that they got his brothers to do like physical to be like physical stand-ins because they needed like a model basically like a character model pretty much to superimpose they hired I think it was Peter Jackson's production
Yeah,
team
what a
productions department studio to do the work for the CG and I think yeah like you said I think it went pretty well and was pretty convincing until that one shot at the very end that was like it was kind of clear that this was not of this world. This was a computer creation. But speaking of computer generation and this movie, I I thought it was kind of impressive the lengths to which new director James Wan, I hope that's how you pronounce it.
Yep.
The lengths that he would go to not use CG. I like looked it up. There were so many scenes in this movie where I was so sure it was computer generated, especially that the cars coming out of the airplane business. But turns out like all of that was real. Like I mean, to an extent, but I guess I give them credit for not just making the whole thing on a computer and making it look like a video game, because they probably could have done that and people probably still would have eaten it up. But like I think it would have made the same amount of money either way. But it was more authentic, I guess, this way. It sounded like he kind of cared what the viewers were going to think about the movie.
Yeah,
it's an interesting.
It's an interesting turn because Justin Lin directed the previous 4 movies, and he actually was in an extended post-production on Fast and Furious 6 and couldn't turn around fast enough to then go make Furious 7. So that's when they brought in James Wan to replace him. James Wan, creator of the Saw franchise. He's Aquaman. He directed a number of other very successful films. And actually, Fate of the Furious, next week's movie, will directed by F. Gary Gray, and then Justin Lin returns to the franchise. Man, I thought this movie was fantastically shot. I thought it was such an improvement. I mean, I gave such shit to 6 for how it looked and how it was shot, and I think this movie was a massive improvement. I thought the action set pieces were wonderfully shot and not in pitch black, which was nice for a change.
Yeah, I think they I guess learned a lot of lessons from the previous movies and applied them here, or they just choreographed them better. I've got absolutely no beef with the cinematography in this movie at all. And yes, they finally avoided the nighttime races for the most part. Maybe toward the end, like the final act, you got like a little bit in there, but yeah, no, we're in full action mode here. This is now an action franchise, Sean. The car stuff is long in the rear view mirror, pun intended. And now we've got nothing. This is basically like a James Bond movie. This is like heist movie turned Bond turned Bourne, but with family. Family's family.
I mean, I thought what the last movie was missing was and what I liked about this movie, first of all, Kurt Russell as Mr. Nobody, who I thought was a fantastic addition. He was so good in this. But to bring in a character who's above them in sort of a nebulous kind of MI6 kind of way, where there's an agency that's hiring them and there's stuff going on they don't know about, and they're kind of just the action pieces, I thought was a really smart idea. And then the God's Eye, kind of the MacGuffin of the movie, I think, again, because it is so over the top and world spanning, I think when you do crazy stunts like these that are like out of the realm of reality, you have to have a plot that matches that. Because if you're doing extreme stunts for like the Scepter of the Queen, which is like a plausible thing in a movie, I don't know, whatever the more plausible version is, but when you're doing it for something as insane and like made up as this, then the crazy action almost makes more sense. And so I think that's a better angle for this franchise to go, is to really be like multiple cities, world super spies, dressed in the tuxedos, kicking ass. I thought it was such a great way to go.
Yeah, with the introduction of Mr. Nobody to the film and to the franchise, it gives you a lot of leeway and a lot of options, right? Because now it's, you know, you might think like, well, where do they get the budget for all this stuff? I mean, they're millionaires or billionaires or whatever because they of all the heists and stuff. But you wonder like how do they get like secret military technology, and they get set on all of these wacky quests now to retrieve crazy things. And MacGuffin, it basically gives them a whole another element to work with, right? Because instead of just being international heisters, we've done that for a few movies now. Now they are like, I guess, an extra branch of the military. It's just the team of them is like, and I love how they give that explanation. They just sidestep what everybody's thinking. It's like, how can why would you like task us to do this? Why can't you just get like an actual like Delta Force or the actual like military involved in this? And they're like, no, it's politics and red tape. I think that's pretty much what Mr. Nobody just says. He's just like, because of all the politics,
right.
We need, so that's where you guys come in, because you're private citizens.
You're just guys.
We can get you to do all this stuff. You just know how to drive good. So
yeah, well, and
we'll put you on all these driving missions, jump you out of planes.
The fact that Mr. Nobody never crosses them or never does them wrong, I think is so important, because we've seen all of these different organizations and people come through and they'll work with them and then they'll double cross them, or there'll be a twist or whatever. And just to have somebody who's like, no, you help me, I help you. Okay, here you go. Let's be friends. I'll call you for the next movie. I think is great. I think you need. They can't just be an independent force, because then everything that happens to them in the movie has to happen to them personally. There has to be like a personal. Like, they wouldn't care about this God's Eye thing if it weren't for Mr. Nobody and then Shaw, right? So I think. I just think it's a great plot device.
Sure. To me, the big twist there was Kurt Russell. I didn't know he was in these movies. I genuinely did not know. When I saw him, I was like, oh. And what was cool about it was I had just watched last night the movie. I saved the title of it because I knew I was going to forget. It's a documentary called The Battered Bastards of Baseball. Which is a documentary on Netflix. It's the true story about Kurt Russell's dad, Bing Russell, who ran a Class A baseball team in the Northwest League, and it was like one of those like I don't know, what Bad News Bears, kind of like
ragtag group.
Anybody could join. Like the mailman down the street was on the team, and you had like all these local people, and they were like not bad. So. It was kind of a feel good little documentary. So I had just seen him in that, and I was like, oh wow, there he is again. He's just all over the place. So I do recommend the documentary, by the way, The Battered Bastards of Baseball. Pretty interesting. And there was all like a lot of the league tried to like shut them down at one point because they were like worried about lawsuits, because these were like normal, like average Joes, I guess. It was kind of interesting. Yeah. So yeah, Kurt Russell, he's in this movie. Rowdy Rhonda, is that her name?
Oh,
Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey, yes, plays the security.
Is also in this movie.
Yeah, she has her little fight moment, which again, it's so funny. Her fight with Michelle Rodriguez, and then when The Rock fights Shaw, both of those fights, I was like, well, one of these people is very much bigger than the other. Where it's like, Ronda Rousey should destroy Michelle Rodriguez. Like, that should not be it. And it distracted me during the fight, where I was like, this shouldn't be as close as they're making it out to be.
Yeah, that was a little one side, especially because of how much, Letty had struggled fighting Gina Caruso. Gina Caruso.
Carano.
Carano. I for some reason stuck on that name. Yeah. In the previous movie, she really struggled with her, and now it's like, another MMA fighter. But Sean, it has to be a woman. Dudes can't fight ladies.
That's right. Dudes fight dudes.
That's one of the cardinal rules of these movies. The other cardinal rule is that cars don't kill people unless they have to die via car. You could also go 90 miles per hour, head to head with another car, smash them together, and the only thing you get is like a stiff neck. That's it.
I mean, you got to remember, Dom falls off a cliff in a car. He has an entire parking garage. He does a jump, gets high enough to hit a helicopter, then lands and survives. The Rock crashes an ambulance off of a bridge onto a Predator drone and walks away. This movie just doesn't give a shit. And that's great.
I would really like to see in the last movie that basically every movie except for maybe the first two were all computer simulations. Maybe the first three movies, everything else was like, I don't know, some sort of like these people are all holograms or something. Like they're not actually.
I'm waiting for
bioengineered humans or something.
Well, to me, it's like the Free Guy style twist where I think they're all in a video game.
Right. It's like St. Elsewhere, but instead of
why haven't they ever made like a good Fast and Furious video game? I mean, it's basically like Grand Theft Auto.
I think they have. None of them were good.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The qualifier good is where you're getting stuck because none of them were good, but they have made. I believe they have made a few.
Yeah, they made one in 2020. So I guess they're still. I mean, I guess between Need for Speed, which by the way, you remember the Need for Speed movie with Aaron Paul?
Mm-hmm.
It was on television the other day, and I normally wouldn't care, but I was like, oh, for this series, I should watch a little bit of it. Whoo! Boy, does that movie stink. Oh my god, it's awful. It's like such a bad ripoff of this.
Yeah, I mean, I just looking at the title alone, it basically has the same font. It's got a car, yeah.
Yeah, and Aaron Paul tries to be a Dom type, and it just is it's not good. Not to get distracted, but it's not good.
Yeah. I have not seen these movies, but I definitely have no desire to. So, yeah. Should we do a plot breakdown? Should we do a?
Yeah, I think we'll get through it quick because this movie is more action set pieces than it is plot. But let's start. Our heroes are hanging out in the U.S. Brian is accustoming himself to being a father. Dom's trying to help Letty get her memory back. It's all nice and cute. Meanwhile, Owen Shawn's older brother, Deckard, he breaks into the hospital, which that's the opening scene of the movie where he's in the hospital and then he walks back through all the stuff he blew up to get him, which I thought was a great shot, and I love that opening.
I was going to say, this is my favorite opening so far in this whole series. My favorite, easily. Tremendous. It was really well done. Because it's like, he's in the hospital, they're looking out over London, and, he's talking about something about history being in the rear view or something, but your future is now. I don't know. But he says, "Get well soon, brother," and then he leaves him, and then chaos is the rest of the hospital is engulfed in flames.
There's a nurse and a doctor cowering in fear in like the middle of the room, just off camera. Like, it's great. I thought that was such a fun shot.
And I like how the camera follows him through the hospital, and he's like he grabs the grenade and he's like, "Hold this," and he pushes the guy. It's very Joker-esque, very Nolan North, kind of like Batman. It was what it reminded me of.
Well, from there, he goes to DSS headquarters to fight Luke Hobbs, a.k.a. The Rock, inside another great action movie fight where they blow a bunch of stuff up and stuff crashes, sends Hobbs to the hospital, and Shaw gets away with the identities of Dom and his crew. Then Shaw just goes on a rampage. So he detonates a bomb, as we mentioned, in front of Dom, Mia, and Brian's house. Nobody dies. I did write in my notes. Why didn't he just kill Dom? Why didn't Sean just kill Dom? Like, why blow up the house? He seems very capable of killing people. I don't know why he didn't just shoot him.
There are so many points in this franchise when I've asked myself that question. They commit that movie sin where the villain is in the hero sights or vice versa, and all they have to do is just pull the trigger and it's all over. But they do that, but they do that a lot. We'll see it in a few scenes from now with the cars when they're racing. But I guess the short answer is just they need them to stay a lot. Well, they don't kill people, Sean. They have a code, kind of like Batman.
Well, that's not true. They killed
which
Han.
is not true at all. But they
killed Gal Gadot.
They sure. No, I'm saying not the villains. The heroes have a code.
Oh.
Vin because he tells Mr. Nobody we're not killers.
That's right.
Right?
They're drivers.
So, I mean, I guess you could ignore all of the Brazilian police officers who died on that bridge when they plummeted off, when the safe knocked them off. You could probably ignore that. You got to ignore all the henchmen that they killed when they were
accidents
on the Mexican border. In the fifth movie, you got to ignoring all that, barring all of that. They're not killers. It's not what they do.
No,
so
of course not. One thing I did breeze over is, and this is one of my few all caps comments I've written during this franchise. They brought back Race Wars.
Sean, yes.
I was like, because at this point, Dom is driving Letty around to help jog her memory, and he goes, "We're gonna go somewhere, and I'm gonna help you." And he goes, "Race Wars." I'm like, no, why would you bring that back?
Not only did they bring it back, but they doubled down because Dom basically looks in the camera and says, "Yeah, it's still called
Race Wars.
we didn't change it, and we invented it."
Oh my.
Yeah, I don't, because they didn't even have to say it. We could have just seen the shots of the race. We would know immediately, like, oh, this is that race in the desert. I had forgotten all about it, and especially forgot that it was called Race Wars, the worst name ever.
Well, in a franchise that brings back everything, it was only a matter of time before Race Wars. In a scene, by the way, and this is probably one of my only few complaints about this movie, is it's long. And I think Race Wars and a few other things could have been cut very easily to save some time. So I wasn't loving the sequence, but the simple fact that they brought back Race Wars was such a treat.
It was a treat. I wonder if there was somebody, I may have said this in the first, when we covered the first movie, but I wonder if there was somebody in the background, like on the staff, that were like, "Hey, I bet you $50 that I'm gonna pitch that we call the race Wars, and we're gonna call this, that's what we're gonna call it." And I bet they'll greenlight it. I bet they won't even notice, and I'll get it by.
And it worked.
That guy,
hope he got paid.
Got a couple free dinners at Chili's. So that guy's winning.
After the house explodes, Dom travels to Tokyo in another scene that's kind of unnecessary to rematch up with our heroes from Tokyo Drift, which has finally happened, by the way. It's no longer a spin-off. It's actually occurred in the sequential order of the films. One of my other most laugh-out-loud moments of the film is where they reuse the footage from Tokyo Drift of them in the garage, where Bow Wow comes up to Sean Black and says, hey, there's a guy who wants to see you. He said he knew Han. And it's the original footage. And then it cuts to the oldest Shane Black in history. He looks so old. And it's like, you aged like 30 years in like the past 5 seconds. What the hell happened?
Actually, I was wondering how they were going to handle that going into the movie. I was like, they're going to have to do some kind of callback because Han is dead. And we know that Dom goes and, brings his body home, which is not something you have to do. Like, you can talk to the government there,
there's a guy
or somebody.
who will do it.
Like, you don't have to do that, but he's going to bring Han back, and yes, and boy, that guy, he looked old. He looked old, and he got a little fat, and it was not good. It was just not good. What was his name again? I don't even remember the name of the actor. Sean Black? Sean was the name of the character.
No, it's I thought it was Shane Black. No, Lucas
Shane
Black.
Black.
Lucas Black is Sean Boswell.
Lucas. Okay. Lucas Black.
Well,
yes.
Jay Whiz, Mr. Dom. I knew Dom. I knew Han real well. He was a good driver.
Why did I age so much? I just walked over to this balcony over here.
It's just me, a regular old drifting 50-year-old man. That's right. Hey, you want to see a photo of my grandkids?
That was so good. And also his car is there, which is like, how did you get your car to Japan? Like, what did you had it shipped over? Like,
it's just so unnecessary.
Just hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I'm way past the point of being mad at this franchise for doing things like that. I just think it's so funny.
Honestly, if they had done
they just
stupid,
don't even care.
If they had done something like,
do not care.
If they had de-aged him with CGI or tried some other bullshit, it would have been awful. I'm so glad they were just like, you know what? Fuck it. Everyone knows the scene was from the movie, and everyone knows this was shot literally a decade later. Who cares? And they just went
We're
going
to put the two scenes just side by side. See, that's what I love about this franchise. It's just the brazenness of like, who would do this? I guess they would. It's just so good. I felt like applauding that.
I was so bummed they didn't shell out the cash for Old Bow Wow. That's the only thing I was bummed about.
Yeah, that was kind of unfortunate. He's old. Not so little anymore, are you? What are you talking about?
Dude, I just talked to you like 5 minutes ago over there. What are you talking about? So good.
But yeah, so he goes to Japan to get Han back, and he gets the necklace, which is going to come in later in the film. It's going to be a it's been a feature of all these movies, like kind of
iconic.
It's iconic, exactly. Just like Vince's tank top. Dom's tank top,
and his gravelly voice.
So
at this point, they all go to Han's funeral. After the funeral, Dom chases Deckard Shaw into an underground tunnel. At which point, they play chicken by just driving into each other very quickly and being totally fine. They get into a fist fight, and that's when Mr. Nobody rolls in to introduce himself to Dom.
Yes. So, I guess, like, Mr. Nobody is supposed to be, like, CIA or beyond, like, even deeper than CIA, like, obviously, like, top level security clearance, kind of like, or was he is he some kind of warlord? I don't really. He keeps mentioning the government, so I think he works in, like, at the top level of the government, U.S. government. That's kind of how I see him.
Unknown covert ops team on Wikipedia. So.
Okay. So there's a chance that he could be, like, some kind of mercenary corporation, like Umbrella or something, and, like, in one of the Fast movies he decides to overtake the government. I don't know. But in this movie, he's pretty chill. He's got Corona back at his hideout. Corona definitely handed in a few checks to sponsor to get the sponsorship again.
Oh boy, that was when he pulls out the bucket of Corona with the bottles in it. Woof.
He's drinking, like, really nice Belgian beer, handcrafted by monks.
The Belgian ale.
He says,
Dom, you gotta try the Belgian ale.
He said, those monks. That I don't know about the celibacy thing, but they really knew what they were talking about when they really know how to make a good beer. So it's like top class, like very good beer, I assume. And then Dom's like, hey, you got any Corona?
He just
drink Corona.
Conveniently has some.
I have brain damage. And so he has the bucket right there. Then he tells him he's going to put it on tap later on. He was like, if you do this, you do this mission, I'll think about putting Corona on tap, and you be doing yourself a favor.
That's all he needed,
piss
man.
Beer.
He was ready to go.
Piss beer with lime. instead of that Belgian crap.
And I was sold. I went out and got a case right away. So
It's marketing.
it was a
man.
good deal. It's at this point Mr. Nobody informs Dom that they can mutually help each other. As you mentioned, Mr. Nobody would like to use Dom and his untraceable crew to stop a Nigerian terrorist named Mose Jakande, who is interested in stealing a computer program called God's. This is so convoluted. A computer program called God's Eye that uses digital devices to track down a person. Now Mose has already kidnapped its creator named Ramsey. And so they've got to get the program. They've got to get Ramsey. If they do that for Mr. Nobody, Mr. Nobody will let them use God's Eye to find Deckard Shaw to then kill him. It's so easy.
Of course, the Nigerian terrorist played by Jimon Honsu
Yes, who
of
isn't?
Blood Diamond fame.
I'm a big fan. I
number
could
of
have
other
used
things.
more of him in this.
Blood Diamond, Gladiator. What else was this guy? The Island. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's been in a lot of things. But apparently he's also got a music career. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't really need him for this movie, which is unfortunate. They kind of wasted him. I thought.
Yeah,
he doesn't really get a lot of line for a villain, a side villain, albeit but still a villain. Doesn't really get a lot of screen time.
Yeah, this movie tries to do a lot with its villains, where obviously Deckard Shaw is a big one. It's got Mose here, and then it's also got kind of the Jordanian prince gets a little bit of screen time, and I don't know, it's a little convoluted.
I just feel like they could have just gotten an extra, or just some kind of like low budget up and coming. They could have really gotten anybody to play this Nigerian terrorist. They got Jimon Honsu for the name recognition. But I hate to say it, I don't think they really used him to his full potential. But that's also, like you said earlier, like because half of this movie is just action fights. It's just shooting and martial arts, jumping out of planes.
Yeah, and speaking of that, now's the time we get to our big middle of the movie action set piece, which is in the Azerbaijan mountains. The team airdrops their cars out of a plane to
Filmed
ambush.
in Colorado.
Yes, where they got a nice tax break. To ambush the convoy, rescue Ramsey from the bad guys, so they can then get the God's Eye in a very long action sequence.
Yeah, that's the big fault that I have with this movie in general. The action got boring after a while. I was bored, especially at the end. The last action sequence and this one with the car chase in Azerbaijan. I didn't really mind the one in Abu Dhabi that much, but I was very bored by a lot of this. It's just like cars going fast and the stakes are so low when they should be really high because none of them they're not gonna die. The last movie, a plane exploded with two of our heroes inside of it.
Yeah, I think there were two different moments during the chase when Mr. Nobody and his secret guys were watching from home base, and he was like, his sidekick's like, "There's no way they're going to get out of this one," and then he gets out of it through some insane.
Watch them get out of this one.
You should know by now to never say, "How are they going to get out?" Like literally, I'm like, "I was going to drive off the cliff." Like I could have told you that. I've seen this movie. No.
Oh yeah.
I agree with you. I think it was. I will say I thought it was well shot, and I thought there was good stuff in there, but it was too long, and I think. It also, they do this thing where they kind of split up the team so each person has their time to shine, quote unquote. And I don't think that's really necessary. I think that's kind of much. I liked some of the Brian stuff in the bus where he's fighting the guy, the bus is rolling, he's got to run up. I thought that was cool. I thought driving through the woods wasn't as good because it's kind of hard to see. And it's kind of fast going on. I think having Shaw show up was a little too much. It was just a little too much. But I think what was there was good.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I appreciated the authenticity, so it wasn't all bad. The fact that they didn't use they refrained, they actually showed a lot of restraint from using a lot of the CG
and quick cuts as well. There were not a lot of quick
Yeah.
cuts in that. I mean, it was you could see the action.
Yes, and that's probably my biggest pet peeve with action sequences is the quick cuts, and the editing usually makes it so jarring it's like really hard to pay attention for me. So I appreciated that they showed some restraint in that department. They did the whole. I could tell that the scene with the bus teetering on the cliff is something that they, people on the production team probably wanted to do for a while. Being that I think it's a direct, homage, sort of, or at least borrowed in some way from the Italian Job, and the Fast Five was basically the Italian Job, just made as a Fast and Furious movie. I didn't expect him to run up the bus. I thought he was just going to jump off and somehow live.
But again, the
Totally called
this...
Dominic driving off the cliff, though. Saw that happening a mile away.
I thought him running up the bus was cool, but then the fact that she spins the car and he grabs onto the spoiler on the back as she's spinning, I'm like, why couldn't he just jump onto the ground? Like, that car is moving at such a velocity. There's no way he could get a grip on that. That's ludicrous. I'm willing to give you him running up the bus.
And he throws the hacker that they're there to rescue. We should mention they're in Azerbaijan to rescue
Ramsey.
A hacker named Ramsey, yes, who is a beautiful woman, and like a moment that I think the movie tries to make like a twist.
Well, Roman has a couple lines. Yeah, Roman gets in a couple. That's not a hacker. Wear the dorky glasses, and I'm like, dude, you suck.
And they have acne from drinking too much soda.
Man, Roman is bad in this movie. He's genuinely, I could have cut his ass. He is not fun in this movie.
I have to say, I didn't appreciate all the whining he did before this mission.
He was not
in
likable.
The plane. That was he made himself really unlikable when they were doing that planning, and he was just like, I should be the leader. Why I'm so tired of everybody else here taking the turns being the leader, and I don't get to be the leader. Honestly, if I was anybody on that team, I would have been like, okay, Roman, see you later. Bye. We don't.
Yeah,
really,
what are you adding to the team other than being
like
his one redeeming moment in the movie is when he in the UAE and in Abu Dhabi at the party when he kind of distracts everybody, which they're like, don't do that, Roman, and then he does it, and there's no real evidence it actually helps.
No, that's the thing. Is most of the things we said this in Fast Five, most of the things he does just don't have to be in the movie. They can work around them. They're all easily. We saw that in 5 when he actually failed to do what he was supposed to do, and they worked around it. So, also they don't really need him for comic relief because that's what Ludacris is there for. But Ludacris is good because he dunks on Roman all the time.
Yes, that is true.
Tej, yeah,
and he's very good.
He's there to. I said actually made a note. I said, Roman is there to be the audience. Tej is there to be kind of like the movie. Tej is there to be like, this is happening because this. Like, he kind of explains things to the audience.
But if Roman is like, that role, which I think I've referenced on the show before, my Ice-T on Law and Order role, where all he does is ask what things are so the other characters explains it, then Roman should do that. Like, he kind of does it, but he should do it more where he does play like the dumb, not necessarily dumb, but the ignorant guy to Tej's like, I explain stuff guy. I don't know. His role is just very odd on the team.
Yeah, it's kind of unclear. So we've got the plane sequence. We've got the chase in the Colorado / Azerbaijani mountains. No surprise, our heroes make it out fine and unscathed
with Ramsey after literally the car flipping and falling down a cliff into a million pieces, and they're totally fine.
Oh yeah, that was the thing. They throw her on on
the hood of Dom's car.
Yeah, he kind of just casual, like he does that thing where he says I'm going to count to 3, but he throws her on 2. And I'm like, you're here to rescue her, and you're just kind of like what if you miss? What if you miss the car? What if she doesn't hold on to the car? What if she gets shot while you throw her onto the hood of this car. Like, I don't know.
would say
they're more careful with like money than they are like with tangible objects than they are with human beings.
I would say the top 3 things in order Ramsey does in this movie is get tossed to and from cars, talk about hacking things, and not be a man. I think are her top 3 activities in the movie.
And that last part is very important because you don't really need Ramsey in this movie. You have Tej. Tej is the hacker. He's the tech guy. And you've got Mr. Nobody, who I would assume has the resources to acquire any hacker that, you know, in the world that he desires. But she's there because she looks good in a swimsuit, as we'll see in the next scene when they're in Abu Dhabi.
So they get Ramsey. Now they have to get the God's Eye. Well, the God's Eye is in another exotic location.
And not only is it in another exotic location, Sean, what is it actually physically in?
Well, Matt, it wouldn't be Fast and Furious if it wasn't.
1, 2,
car.
A car.
Yes. Okay. Yes. No, it is. But by the way, not just in any car. It's in a Lykan Hypersport, which sounds fake, but turns out is actually a real car. It costs over $3 million, and only, I think as of the shooting of this movie, only 7 were ever made.
Wow.
And they actually destroyed one in the film, but not one of those 7. The company manufactured one for the movies that they then destroyed. But it is an incredibly fast, incredibly expensive car that, it just so happens that the God's Eye ended up in. Who knew? With a Jordanian prince.
This is now, the 3rd time they've done this? Putting something expensive, specifically a microchip or a piece of technology that is expensive and valuable inside of a car, the engine of a car or a compartment of a car.
Yeah, you don't hide your valuables in something that is constantly moving
in the car.
And is easily
I'm
stolen.
not really clear where in the car. Is it in the chassis? Or I don't know cars at all. But why would you put it so close? Engines get real hot.
No, in this movie...
Why would you put an expensive piece of technology in a hot engine?
In the Lykan, what you see is, towards the end of the little chase they have, is Brian's, punching the center console, and I guess just punches so hard that he punches to where it is and pulls it out. Very weird.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it was maybe they were doing it as a callback, or maybe they were just super lazy. They needed to have some way where there's an exotic location and a cool car that they can drive through 3 major skyscrapers without international incident.
Yeah, let's talk about that. The car is on the top of a skyscraper in the vault of a prince. They get invited to the party. They dress up fancy James Bond style, sneak into the party. They each have their little roles they play. Dom and Brian are trying to get to the car, but they run out of time, so they then start driving the car around the inside of this penthouse, but they run out of room. This was going to be my other opening bit for you instead of calling Mr. Nobody. I was going to say the man who knows cars can fly, because Brian goes, "Cars can't fly!" And then Dom hits the gas, and boom, the car flies from one building to the other, drives around the inside of that building, and then decides to continue and drive into the following building.
Yeah, I really need to up my game with these name things. That's usually your shtick, and I sometimes try to ad lib on the fly, but note to self, I'm gonna up my game with those the names. The intro names. Yeah. So you've got all those cars destroyed. You've got probably millions of dollars worth of damage in these buildings here. But they get the technology. They get the little microchip out. Oh, I wanted to mention real quick before they went to Abu Dhabi. Quick backtrack. They're the last scene in Azerbaijan when they're / Colorado when they're by that lake, and Vince says we're going to the Middle East. If you look on a map, Azerbaijan is pretty close to the Middle East. Some might even say in the Middle East. So I just thought that line was really funny and unnecessary, and just like
a very.
I wish somebody would have. I guess Vince didn't. I mean Dom. I keep calling him Vince today. I think Dom didn't really. Maybe didn't pass didn't pass geography. Or,
Well, I was going to say, as somebody who teaches geography, Matt, I'm not surprised you caught that.
I just thought it was really funny. So,
no, the skyscraper thing was cool, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It was fine. I wouldn't say I loved it.
I mean, I know it was. I think it was between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and I think they said Dubai was too expensive or not willing to offer a tax break or something.
Probably.
So they went to Abu Dhabi, but all I could think about. Have you ever watched Garfield, Sean?
Yes, and they would always send Nermal to Abu Dhabi. Yes.
So that was I think, Garfield used to threaten to send Odie to Abu Dhabi because he hated Odie but loved him. It was one of those love-hate.
They always put him in a big crate. Say Abu Dhabi on the side.
So that's all I could think about when they were there. It was just the the Garfield thing.
The poor man's Dubai.
Yes, I guess that is kind of what it is. I don't know, but they have to go there because they've never been to the Middle East before on any of their missions. So it's a box to check.
Yes,
and they get the God's
eye, and they get the God's eye somehow, unbelievably. And so with the God's Eye, they plug it in and they track down Deckard. But they're ambushed by Diamond Hansu and his bad guys and are forced to flee and leave the God's Eye behind after Mr. Nobody gets shot. But they can't. Yeah. They're worried about the bad guys using the God's Eye because Ramses can shut down God's Eye at any time. So in order to fully own God's Eye, they have to come and kill Ramsey. That's when they decide to go to their home turf in Los Angeles to lure Deckard, to lure Moses, to protect Ramsey, and I guess finish the movie.
Because if you want, you're in a situation when you're battling an international terrorist who has already caused massive collateral damage, you want the first place is where you want to draw them to is your hometown.
That's right.
Where you got to
where you live, where your family
probably
lives.
The most to lose, and they've already completely decimated your house with a package bomb that blows everything up. Really, wipes that house completely out, but does not kill or maim anyone.
Amazingly, not even
that
a neighbor.
Little boy. By the way, he's gonna need some therapy, I think.
Yeah, there's something
the son
not right with this. I would bet you
Paul Walker's son. Well, yeah, absolutely going to need some kind of someone to talk to. Brian's son.
Mm-hmm. And so they get suited up for the final action sequence of the movie. I did make a small note here. So at one point they're getting suited up, and Brian pulls out a vest out of his trunk that says FBI on it, and then he pulls the FBI off after he's. And I thought, when you leave the FBI, do you just get to keep all of your guns and gear?
Sure. That was the thing when he's in the hospital earlier, in a scene I don't think we talked about when after Hobbs fights Deckard, and he's laid up in the hospital. His gun is right on that table.
Yeah,
in front
just
of him.
hanging
Did you
out.
notice where the all of the orderlies and the nurses are totally fine with him just keeping his piece on the eating tray? It's just out there, and his daughter's in the room. It's 10-year-old daughter's there or whatever. And my daddy said he kicked your ass.
Yeah, that was it was interesting because Dwayne Johnson at the same time was shooting Hercules, 2014's Hercules, and I think that's why he wasn't really in this movie. He's only at the beginning and end of the movie, which is okay.
Yeah, you kind of forget he's there. He almost kind of makes cameos, kind of like Jimon Honsu.
He has a couple moments.
He's the cavalry.
Jakande comes to Los Angeles with a stealth helicopter and an aerial drone because, of course, those things are so easy to procure. And then once he gets there, Ramsey attacks to hack into God's Eye, which he has. And a giant chase ensues as they're trying to hack. He's going around blowing stuff up. The drone's going around. It's trying to blow up the cars. They're tossing Ramsey between the cars. Meanwhile, Dom is with Deckard in a parking garage. They kind of just stare at each other and rev their cars for a while. Then they decide to just beat each other up with wrenches and stuff, et cetera, et cetera.
They've got this character Kiet, who is the one of the henchmen of Jakande.
Yep.
And he's actually like another like fighter kind of guy, like a martial arts actor. He's very very big in Southeast Asia.
Yeah,
I feel
he's
like
great.
he kind of they utilized him pretty well because there's a lot of that fight sequence where between him and Brian O'Connor, totally fair matchup, very very even keel.
Oh yeah, 100%. Anyone could
both of them are super. Anybody could win that one, and yeah, he's up against there. He's they use him a lot. Like he's pretty well. He's in Ong Bak. I didn't know that. Ong Bak, very famous movie. Did you watch Ong Bak? We watched that back at college.
I probably slept through it.
It was a movie night watch. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's a pretty cool fight scene, and it doesn't really overstay its welcome. I guess it was because of all the other stuff going on at the same time, the helicopter, the drone, the missile.
They were constantly bouncing around.
It was a lot. It was a lot to pay attention to, and it was at night, which again,
it was like 40 minutes
made
long.
Things difficult. It was long, Sean. I'm going to be real with you. I think I may have slept through a little bit of this part. I know it's the action, like it's really the climax of the movie, and it's a huge action set piece. But I got so bored after a while, and
I think you were right when you said it was repetitive, because it's like, oh no, the drone's going to blow up their car, and it's like, oh no, the drone's going to blow up a different car, and there really wasn't a ton of variety in the action.
Yeah, and I woke up for when it mattered. I just kind of rested my eyes a little bit. I was there to see The Rock literally flex a cast off his arm.
Off his cast, and then drive an ambulance off a bridge and pick up a machine gun. That was pretty great. I will say I did enjoy that a lot.
The movie, it just became The Expendables and like Predator wrapped into one. So
hell yeah.
Very cool. When he goes, "Woman, I am the cavalry." It's a great line. I should have used that for the opening.
That is a good one. No, they're great in this. He's so good in this. But basically, they fight, they brawl. Finally, they all meet up together at the parking garage. Deckard falls into the parking garage, where he has a good line about. I wish I could find it, but it was about the streets.
About the streets. He says he's battling Dom. Dom and Deckard are finally the climactic fight, and I think he says like what does he say? The streets always win.
The
thing about street fights is that the streets always win.
The street always wins. Which references his earlier line of when he has a gun. He goes, "You thought this was going to be a street fight?" And then he tosses the gun away. What? And he goes, "You're goddamn right it is."
Yes. Because in the beginning, the Deckard says in the earlier scene, did you think this was going to be a street fight? And he pulls out like an Uzi or something. Yeah. Yeah. So they have a little brawl. I think they have like pipes or something. Like they're like dual wielding pipes.
I was trying to figure out. Dom has wrenches, and I'm trying to figure out if that is a callback to the dude who killed his father on the racetrack. He later beat with a wrench.
To death,
as reference
right?
to the first movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't know if that was a reference or not. It seems
it probably would be, because they a lot of people thought this was going to be the last movie. Even the directors kind of treated it like it was. I mean, they've been saying that for the past 3 movies though, and kind of setting it up to be the last one. And now, of course, we know it wasn't. But maybe they really thought it was going to be this time, and that's why they set that up, and that's why the thing happens that we're going to talk about now with Dom. And maybe they really thought it was going to be the last one.
Well, they certainly tried to kill Dom. He takes his car, drives it out of a collapsing parking garage up to the height of a helicopter, which he attaches a bag of grenades to, and then crashes really hard to the ground. The Rock then shoots the grenades and blows up the bad guy's helicopter.
Yes, and he's very lucky that the helicopter did not land directly on Dom when he did that. It just ends up crashing into the side of the building and blowing like the rest of the building up around Dom. And Dom is laying there, dying essentially. He's unconscious, not really bleeding that much for some guy that
it was confusing.
Suffered
because
all the injuries he has.
Brian was doing CPR, which would indicate he didn't have a heartbeat or a very low heartbeat and wasn't breathing. But then he just sort of wakes up after Letty cries and talks about how she remembers their wedding, which we didn't know happened until she said she remembered it.
She remembered everything. I remember everything now.
I remember everything.
Because that's how memory works.
It's amnesia.
Just all of a sudden just comes back, like turning on a switch, like a light switch. And, this franchise continues to handle mental health very poorly. And there's no surprise there. But at least, what I thought was going to happen was I thought he was going to, like, kiss Letty, and then all her memories would come back, like something really, really offensive like that. But
yeah.
Instead, he's like, he's on the verge of death or whatever. She thinks he's dead, and so she remembers everything conveniently. So he'll come back to life, and then we'll see a flashback of their wedding that nobody ever talked about, where they don't have a ring, so they use the chain that Dominic Toretto had been wearing throughout all the movies that he gives to a woman that is not his wife in one of the movies. Oops. Kind of the equivalent of like giving your wedding ring to like somebody else.
Well, he thought Letty was dead. Come on, cut him some slack.
I guess he totally thought she was dead until she wasn't.
There's that line where Letty says
that woman that he had just met a couple days ago was definitely a good replacement for his dead wife. He decided.
Letty has the line, "Why didn't you tell me we were married?" And Dom says, "You can't tell someone they love you." Which is so nice and sweet, and kind of end of movie. Then we kind of get the postscript. Deckard is taken into custody by Hobbs and locked away in a high security prison until the Hobbs and Shaw spinoff.
Which I have an issue with that, because several times in the movie, Hobbs and Dom exclusively talk about what they're going to do to Deckard when they catch him.
That's right. Like
they talk about how they're gonna. What I think Dom says, words ain't even been invented yet, is what he tells Garsh. What he tells that guy, what he's gonna do when he catches him. And then I think Hobbs also says that he's gonna. It's he says some like 5th grade line, which he has a lot of them in this movie.
Yeah,
he said one time he's gonna break. He's going to break his fingers and stick them where the sun don't shine. That was another. Oh, he says when he catches him, he's going to make him wish that his mama had closed her legs.
I remember that line. That was great.
Yes. Very much like
they're pro wrestling
8th grade
lines.
Recess kind of lines.
They're very much like you could see The Rock saying it in the ring back in 1998, you know?
Right. Yes. Very, very exactly. Yes. Like not 8th, probably like 11 or 12-year-old insults here we got going on. But no, and they just throw him in jail like any other prisoner. They forget about all that stuff and they just throw him in and he says, when if you try to dig your way out of here, out of 40 miles of reinforced concrete and steel,
I'll be standing there with a fist and a body bag
on the other side.
Well, Matt, who else is going to stop Idris Elba in a couple years? We need him.
Idris Elba's in these movies?
Yeah, he's the villain in Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh, good. Okay. I just assumed Shaw was going to be the villain in Hobbs and Shaw.
I'm kind of excited for that. No, it's an unlikely pairing of Shaw and Hobbs. And I'm kind of excited to watch that movie because it sounds wacky as shit.
But before we get there, we got to address the final scene in the movie. We've got a very nice beach with, of course, Sean. We got Brian O'Connor, and his wife are playing in the sand, and I think Roman is talking about how he can't possibly get any tanner, some stupid thing that he says, and then Luda's like, "Nah, man, just close your mouth for 1 minute and just look." And they're all watching, like, O'Connor having a great time with his kid and his wife, and he's like, this is the life that he deserves, and he's going to retire. He's in retirement. And then Dom drives off, and he sees the CG Brian in the car next to him. Did you think was that real? Or was that one of, like, the mind's eye kind of things?
I think the movie intended it for it to be real, but also it's intercut with a lot of footage from the other movies and sort of a weird flashback sequence over a sad song, so I don't know.
Because my question is, his wife and kids are not in the car with him. It's just him. And he's also in the car. I think he's in the same car that he drove in the first movie. So I thought it was like an intended callback. Like not callback, but like Dom is imagining it, and he's thinking about like all the good times that they had.
I thought it was real in that, so Dom, one of the team is like, "Oh, you should," and he goes, "No, I'm not going to say anything. I can't say goodbye," or something like that. And so I thought it was real life Brian following him, and that was his way of saying goodbye to him, like, in reality.
Because he says you're going to leave without saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And then he pulls up like next to him.
Right. So I thought he actually like chased and followed him to do the car buff guy version of goodbye.
And then they of course drive their separate ways. You know, the roads kind of veer apart, and that's it. We get no inter-credit scene, no post-credit scene. We just get for Paul and the credits.
Yep, it's just for Paul.
I was surprised, John. I'm gonna be completely honest here. I think that the tribute was really good. It was a really well done tribute. Everything except for the kind of scary CG part, which I don't really see. I don't think they really had a way around. I thought it was handled tastefully. The whole movie, I was nervous. I was like, what are they gonna do? Like, how are they gonna? I knew they didn't kill him off. I knew that they retired him, which I thought was the right choice. I feel like you can't kill somebody off if they're dead in real life, unless you had kind of already meant to go in that direction. But I thought it was pretty well done.
I disagree. And I just had to put that up on the screen.
I thought we had a special guest. It was like,
ladies and gentlemen, the
what's
ghost of
gonna
Paul
happen?
Walker.
Oh wow!
Just the upsetting, like, unnatural faces don't look that way. Look in the car. He's just like, hey. No, this is gonna sound really stupid, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I think this movie would have been better if he died between the filming of the movie rather than during the filming. Because I think you would have done a better job of writing him off in the opening of the next movie versus the plot tweaks and changes and additions they had to make for this movie. And I guess if your main actor in a film is going to pass away, this is probably the best way you're going to, like, memorialize him. But in terms of what a Fast and Furious movie is, and the way this movie ends, it felt very awkward and unfinished, which I guess in a way it was because he died. But sort of him saying goodbye at the beach, but he doesn't actually talk to Paul Walker because he wasn't there. Like the idea of Brian O'Connor retires from the crew to live with his family is great. Like, that should be even if he didn't die, that's a great story for the character. But it's sort of not well explained or well shot or whatever because of the limitations they had. And so, and like the flashbacks to the shots from the previous movies I didn't think were necessary. I just wish that they had already shot that ending before he passed away, because it would have just ended. It's not bad for what it was. I just didn't think it was ideal for the movie. But neither is your main actor dying.
Yeah, I think, none of it. Obviously, there was no game plan for any of it, and I think just the fact that they were even able to complete the movie is what they were going for. But I think the send-off was, the reason I kind of liked it was because it did seem like they stepped back from the franchise. Because we have seen this franchise do some really stupid things. And I was just glad that they didn't turn him into like a Force ghost or something.
No,
like do something like really offensive and bad.
Although creepy
to
CGI
memorialize
car
him. They did it.
Guy,
I thought the way that they handled it was like, they took a step back and they were like, all right, he's retired, he's with his family, we never have to revisit. He's happy. He's like, they didn't make him like blow up in a helicopter or something.
Well,
I was just afraid that this whole time they were going to do something like kind of disingenuous. Like he would die in a way that in any other circumstance in the movie, if the actor was still alive, he would live. But because he's dead, they had to write him off in that way.
But I
kind of like when Giselle's. It's weird now that I can't remember her actress, but I always could remember Gal Gadot. I always used to not remember the character's name, but now it's the other way. When Gal Gadot had like contract issues, so she couldn't be in another movie, so they killed her character off. I was just afraid that was going to happen to him, but I guess that my expectations were pretty low, and they exceeded them by putting it together, that little tribute montage and him driving into the sunset.
Well, but I think the movie would have been better if the last shot was him playing with Mia and the kid on the beach, and then it just soft cut to for Paul. Like, I didn't need any of the flashbacks. I didn't just let his character end in a positive, uplifting way. I didn't need weird CGI Paul, our 2015 version of a Force Ghost. And I don't know. I would have just ended the movie there on like Brian got his send off. He's with his family for Paul. End of movie. But I don't think it's the end of the world.
I'll kind of agree with you that the CG part. Thinking back, maybe I would have had the car pull up, and it's his car. You would have heard the voice say like you weren't going to leave without saying goodbye, right? And then you would have the camera be like maybe positions where it's like looking at Dom, like point of view. Or maybe you would see the back of his head, but it would actually be like his brother as a stand-in actor. You're right. The CG made me a little uncomfortable, as it always kind of does. But
yeah, it just didn't work.
It's one of those things where I don't know if Paul Walker would have been like creeped out or offended by it, whereas things like Carrie Fisher being, we don't know because she's dead. We don't know because Paul Walker's dead too, but I don't know. It's just one of those things that I really hope movies stop doing. I hope that they just kind of like it's an ethical area that I would like to see movies not delve in the future, because we're gonna have dystopian movies where long dead actors are brought back to life using technology, and it's not a good direction to go in. I agree.
Matt, that's the plot of the film. I just want to quickly touch on this had a production budget of $250 million. It was one of the most expensive films ever made at the time. Now, that led me down a bit of a wormhole. Do you know what the reported most expensive movie of all time is? You'll never guess.
Is it? No, I'm not even going to ask the question because I think I know the answer. I'm trying to think of the name. It's called it's an older movie, right?
No,
it's
no, this is a modern movie.
It's a modern. Okay, forget it then. I was thinking there's a movie. I forget what it's
called.
Like Babylon or something.
Ben-Hur.
Not Ben-Hur.
No.
What's the movie they built this massive set for, and it's it's in L.A. It's from the 50s or 60s. I need to look it up. It was the setting was like ancient Persia or something. It's in movie buffs know it was really crazily expensive, and they had they hired a million extras to be in it. Maybe it might have been Cleopatra.
Yeah, the Ten Commandments was also another
reconstructed the Ishtar Gates for it, and super expensive and lavish.
No,
is that not? That's not it. All right, modern. Then maybe Avatar.
Nope, not even close. It's a franchise film in the middle of the franchise.
One of the Marvel. Avengers movies.
It's not Marvel.
Okay.
I told you you're not going to guess. I appreciate you trying. I'll give you clues if you want
One of,
clues, but
not one of the Lord of the. I don't think the Lord of the Rings movies were that expensive.
no,
Like
they're
were
not even in the top
mostly.
15.
Yeah.
But 3 of the films from this franchise are in the top 15 most expensive ever made,
Not
including
Harry
number 3.
Potter.
No, not Harry Potter, though that is number 10.
I could see those being really expensive.
This film
All right,
cost $380 million.
I think I give up. But my last guess is going to be one of the Batman movies, one of the Nolan North Batman
No,
movies.
a
Those didn't
non-superhero
seem like they were
franchise. No superheroes.
not super. You said it wasn't Marvel before, but no
No,
superheroes.
but no superheroes
Okay.
at all. And not Star Wars.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
No, it's not Willy Wonka. But who
Modern
starred
one.
in that film?
Oh, was it Pirates of the Caribbean?
It was Pirates of the Caribbean
Black
4
Pearl?
on 4 on Stranger Tides.
4.
At World's
I
End
liked
was
that
the
movie.
5th most expensive. As
A lot of people bash that, but I thought it was so much better because it was not 3.
Well, the
3
reason
was one of the
4
worst
was
movies I've ever seen.
the reason 4 was so expensive. It came out in 2011, which was peak. We have to do everything in 3D, but badly, and so it cost them a goddamn fortune to do the whole thing in 3D. That's what made it so
Wow,
expensive.
really? That's the most
Yeah.
expensive movie, huh?
Yep, ever made.
I would have never guessed that. If you had even told me the franchise, I would have said like the second or third movie.
No, all those movies were insanely expensive. Especially the last couple, because I think everybody's rates got more and more expensive as they went on. The film grossed about $400 million worldwide during its opening weekend, the highest of all time at the time, and ranks number 11 right now worldwide. And it went on to gross $1.5 billion worldwide, the third highest grossing film of 2015, the fourth highest grossing film of all time at the time of release, and of course the highest grossing film in the franchise, which it still holds that record today. A wild success, Matt. Let's give some overall opinions here. What are your thoughts on Furious 7?
Well, I have to say I really, as far as the franchise goes, this is nowhere near the worst. In fact, I actually really enjoyed it. I liked the set pieces. We talked about how the cinematography was excellent. I thought the new director really he kind of injected a lot of life into the franchise. By the way, same director as the Saw franchise.
That's
Creator
right.
and one of the, I think, co-directors of the Saw.
Yeah, he did
movies.
Insidious.
Also, The Conjuring.
He's done a ton of stuff. Dude,
Could you imagine if they turned Fast and Furious into a horror franchise? Kind of interesting.
I would take that pitch.
The car is haunted. I don't know. I thought that the last part of the movie really did not grip me. Obviously, it kind of put me to sleep, almost literally in a lot of ways. But I also give them credit because that was probably. I mean, I don't know the sequence of how their shooting schedule or anything, but they may have been dealing with Paul Walker's death at the time, and maybe it was just kind of one of those like their heads weren't really in it. They were just trying to finish things and like wrap things up to just have the movie that they've been working on made. Because they already had tons of production delays because of that. So I think I'm willing to give them leeway in that department, and yeah, I think overall the plot was a Fast and Furious plot, so didn't really have to make sense. Yeah.
And out of 10 cans of NOS or something else, how are you going to rank this one?
Well, Sean, out of 10 car parachutes,
okay,
that are opened either knowingly or unknowingly by the driver, I am going to give this one somewhere between like 7, somewhere around 7 car parachutes.
Solid.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Very solid.
this was good. I might have given it more. Might have even worked its way up to like a 9 if it hadn't been those really the long, very drawn out action sequences. But if that's the worst thing you can say about a Fast and
Totally.
Furious film, like I think that's that's pretty good in my book.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I do think the worst thing about it is it's too long. Otherwise, I just felt they made up for a lot of deficiencies in 6. I thought the action and driving was shot much better. I thought the addition of Kurt Russell worked out really well. I think the action was good, if not drawn out. And overall, this felt to me like a more of a Fast and Furious movie. I mean, it really was an action spy sort of thriller that I enjoyed greatly. I really did. I thought this was great. I don't know if I liked it more than 5, but it's definitely up there. And I'm going to rank this out of kegs of Belgian ale, and I'm going to give this 7.5 kegs of Belgian ale. I
Nice.
enjoyed the movie
I like
quite a
that
lot.
better. Make sure it's definitely not buckets of Corona.
God no, we
Also,
cannot be bought here.
I looked up the movies, and it was Cleopatra. That was the movie I was thinking of. Very like one of the most legendarily expensive films because of the casting, the costumes, and the casting. They had tons of like millions of extras for like certain scenes in the movie, so or at least thousands. Yeah. All right. I hope to see more of Mr. Nobody in the future. We didn't address this, but he does get shot, but he lives.
Yes, I do believe
So
he
I don't
comes
really
back
know
in
why
a
that
future
happened.
film.
Yeah. Cuz he remember he turns and winks knowingly at Dom.
He's so good in this. Holy shit.
Yeah, I'd like to see more of him. I think that was cool.
So, Matt, next week we'll be talking about 2017's The Fate of the Furious, another wildly successful entry in this franchise where we will bring in a new villain, Cypher, played by Charlize Theron.
All right.
Very excited.
We will we got to keep this train going. We got to keep plugging away.
Yep,
But
who will show up next? We'll find out. But I hope everyone out there is enjoying the series as much as we are. Make sure you come back next week for our next film. We're going to start getting towards the end of it here, so you don't want to miss a single episode. If you've missed past ones, subscribe to our podcast wherever you get podcasts. Just search Up for Debate. The episodes will be in the feed. And you can also go to our website, upfordebate.tv. Of course, you can follow us at Up for Debate TV on Twitter, where we don't really ever tweet anything. And also, you can email us, upfordebatetv@gmail.com, and share with us your thoughts on The Fast and the Furious. But that's going to wrap us up here. So I am Sean. He is Matt. Thank you for joining us. Hope you had as much fun as we did. We'll see you next time for another Fast and Furious edition of Up for Debate.